Do not harass anyone mentioned or shown in this video. Warning, this video may contain some potentially triggering subjects. I will not be going into heavy detail of these topics, but please do take care of yourself and watch with caution if this could cause any issues. Ladies and gentlethems, my name is Arson, and I've got some hot takes to talk about today. To start things out, this is my first commentary. I am still learning and trying to figure out how to do, well, everything, so please excuse any simple mistakes. This subject is one I'm very passionate about, and something I want to see more artists and people in general talk about, as it's not just a topic exclusive to art. I'll try my best to make it a bit entertaining, and for today, I'll be doing a speed draw of my little cutie sprites that'll be flopping around the screen every now and then, depending on how lazy I'm feeling while editing this. Keep in mind, my viewpoint will be biased. This isn't a peer-reviewed study and just my thoughts and opinions. With all that out of the way, let's shine some light on this topic. Ageism is something of a hot-button topic. Many flaring opinions come up when talking about it. Ask anyone of any age group, and I'm sure that they'll have some blazing opinions on the subject. Whether boomers saying that people have it too easy, or zoomers being all whatever they're doing. These views aren't something that's new, but it's something that we can all understand. Generations have been divided from the time we've started trying to categorize various human eras. And we're within a unique spot in human history where within the past few hundred years, we've made huge leaps in science and technology. Hell, I remember when computers used to be a brick that you'd have to use dial-up for, wait 30 minutes for a single page to load. Don't even try running any games on that thing, because the only thing that would work is solitaire, and even that would lag. No, I still have no idea how to play solitaire, and at this point, I'm just too scared to ask. The point of this is to show just how difficult it can be to really understand the divide between generations, especially within just the past few decades. Unlike before, where some generations could go on for centuries due to how slow technology was spread and developed, not to mention a few other things that impacted this that we won't talk about here, but certainly should be addressed, but also to show how fast things have been developing in the current era where this rapid development has caused a disassociation between people and generations. Many older generations will go about their criticism of how younger generations have it so much easier. While some parts of this may be true, it should always be the goal of life to make things better for the next generation. It belittles the idea that we should strive towards something better and always progress towards an easier, more comfortable life. People who are older tend to forget that just because little Timmy down the road doesn't have to break his back in the coal mines doesn't mean he's spoiled. We constantly are and should be making things better for those who come next. Many older people are skewed in this idea, as it comes with seeing things as easier since they fail to realize the new problems that arise with the new technology. Just because you fixed one issue doesn't mean that you've gotten rid of every issue that exists. Not to mention, some people have this weird idea that if you don't suffer the same way as them, that means you aren't suffering at all. Which, that is a whole other issue I have that don't get me started on that. The whole weird idea of people need to suffer or they need to have this agony in their life. And it's always great to be bettering our technology, but with better technology will always come new unforeseen issues. These issues often being put in the laps of the new generation we had made these creations for. An example is great, we have computers, we have this ability to go on the World Wide Web, but now if you don't have access to any of that, you can't function in society. This causes issues for anyone who can't afford the newest technology. It puts them at an immediate disadvantage. You won't always find a perfect solution for everything. You will always have a new problem that may arise with what comes next. We should always strive to find the closest to perfection, but we should not let that ideal of perfection blind us to the reality of our situation. Programs have become so much more accessible for artists of all ages. This has given newer generations a leg up when starting their artistic careers. Whereas before, older generations had to shell out a few $100s for their starter programs. That, or try to find other ways to get their hands on these very elusive programs, which may or may not include needing to get a hat, eye patch, and peg leg along the way. Not that I would know. On one hand, this has been great for people who had been using older art methods because they can find easier and more efficient ways to continue doing what they love. On the other hand, people have this expectation that older generations should already know how to use a lot of these programs, which actually is an issue that is shared between both young and old artists alike. On the other hand, it can be extremely frustrating because you feel like you just wasted so much time learning something that has just become outdated with new technology. You spent your entire life learning what is considered now the hardest way possible to do something, now when somebody who is half your age can do the same thing in less than a year. And I can completely understand that. I especially have felt like this often. Younger generations have been able to access programs I was only allowed a very, very limited time in school. And even then, these programs were very old, outdated, and often crashed. I couldn't even save my projects on flash drives because we didn't have those as often around as they are now. Now you can torrent Photoshop so easily, I don't even know how Adobe stays in business. With other programs like Clip Studio Paint being really reasonably priced compared to how Adobe used to be, it can cause some resentment and frustration from older generations who feel like they've wasted so much of their life. Because along with that, people have this odd expectation for older people to already be at a certain skill level due to their age. This is a problem that can be seen at nearly any age, but often when it comes to kids or younger people, it's brushed off because they're still learning. There's this idea that when you've become an adult, you're no longer a student and you no longer should learn, but simply be a professional. While this is my biased perspective, I see adults tend to take most of the flack for this, when really we don't know how many years or how much time someone can commit to their art. Kids do tend to have a lot more time on their hands because they don't have to worry about certain other things. Or at least in my opinion, they shouldn't have to worry about things like job, money, and food security. And yes, I do understand there are some kids who do have to deal with these problems. For now, I know I struggle with my art. Hell, a year ago, I was still embarrassed about how bad my art is. I still don't know how the fuck shading works. I don't know how eyes work on the face either, which is why I don't have any. Or well, my sprite doesn't have any. And backgrounds just completely elude me. Lucifer knows I live in a black or gray void most of the time. But I constantly feel this pressure to be better, that anxiety of how people who are near half my age can do so much more, so much better. It makes me feel like a failure because I can easily be replaced. I can be thrown to the side and no one will notice that I'm gone because I can't rise to the levels that have been set to me. Like, I'm pretty sure most people here don't think of me as some 26-year-old who ended up going to college and taking multiple art courses only to flunk out and fail her first Drawing 101 class. Or maybe that is an expectation that you all had, I don't know. But it really makes making art and the process of doing so and sharing it disheartening because people don't expect me to be this, well, bad. Such an unhealthy and toxic mindset to have is unfairly then pushed upon younger people who didn't do anything to deserve this kind of treatment. These ideas are pushed by insecurity and fear because we worry that we're not good enough, and so we have to push down other people to make ourselves feel better. And no, this is not an okay behavior. People, you should get help if you feel this way. You should get therapy. Find somebody and find a support group that is able to help you. But younger artists shouldn't be punished for the benefits they get from the hard work that our generations have put out. On the flip side of that, you do have people that reinforce these ideas as well. I can't animate. If I made an animation, it would probably look like shit because I don't have the time to spend outside my job, my girlfriend, and trying to balance everything in my life. But people don't seem to want to address that. They see adults who have lived longer years and so expect them to have the skill to correlate with having contributed all of those years to art. I've seen kids, adults, and every kind of person shame others who are just starting their artistic journey, who aren't even at the level of skill they associate with their age. Even young artists and animators deal with this same problem too. A lot of times it comes off as like playful cringe, oh, you're so horrible and terrible and give up, and it reinforces this idea that their time isn't worth doing this. That if you aren't already perfect, you might as well just give up. It contributes to this constant state of spiraling into giving up, because why bother when people are just going to mock you for doing what you enjoy? When getting hate on things you want to have fun with because it doesn't fit some arbitrary standard, again, it makes you feel like you're wasting your time because you didn't contribute earlier in your life to doing these things and you're too late to join. Art is a process, it's an expression. The same way we don't or shouldn't shame people for not feeling certain ways or complaining about how long it takes them to feel certain ways, we shouldn't shame artists for not being the way you think they should be, or being at the skill level that you think that they should be at. Your art is the journey you take, not where you are in a single moment. I want to preface this with the fact that you can be any age at starting your artistic journey, and it doesn't matter how good or bad you are when you start. If people don't value the art that you work to put your heart into, those people should not matter. Whether you're a young artist just starting out or you're an older person trying to get into art, it does not matter how good you are, because your journey is only yours to take. So embrace being cringe, embrace the bad, because you will never be perfect and you will never start perfect. Your journey might be rocky, but you'll find the perfect way to pave it forward. So I implore you, people of all ages, don't look down on older people who wish to get into art. Don't look down at people if they're not at a certain skill level that corresponds with how old they are, because we all have our own ways of going forward. And instead, encourage people and bring them forth by giving them tips if they so wish to have them. Bring them into the community, because we all have something we can learn and teach each other. With that, we're going to take a look at younger artists and the challenges that they face starting their artistic journeys. I want to start this off with the fact that I'm not what many would consider to be a young artist, or at the very least, not what the online community would consider a young artist. That being said, I am 26, I'm an adult, and I'm halfway to being 30, which is honestly still terrifying to think about. So my perspective is going to be limited on this because I don't have many friends who are considered young artists. Regardless, we're going to do our best to flip the coin and look at the challenges that younger artists face in today's day and age. With all the benefits they're given and the access to new technology, things should be pretty great, right? Boy, do you know how the internet works. Considering just how bad the internet is and the disturbing amount of commentary done on artists who are taken advantage of, it's no doubt that young artists are going to be targeted and abused the most. Especially those who gain thousands of followers and then get overwhelmed with the amount of new people swarming to them. And along with it, the toxic idea that people need to cater to those around them, especially kids who can be arguably very easily manipulated. And unfortunately, there's a lack of education on these subjects that allow for predators to be able to harm kids and young artists alike. People want attention, people crave it for the most part, and it isn't uncommon for younger artists to do what they can to keep the attention they get, while also not realizing the harm that they're causing to themselves or other people. We've unfortunately seen time and time again that these tactics allow for predators to harm and groom children, along with exposing them to things that they shouldn't have to be anywhere near. This isn't so much of an issue for older people who are newer artists, but young people who are also young artists, or young people just in general. I'm not trying to say that being online can be a bad thing, or it is a bad thing. It can be very helpful to people and allow for artists to be able to explore their creativity in new ways. But we do have to keep in mind that what happens to people when they do get into these situations, and that it can happen to anyone. Kids also might not understand the ramifications of what they're doing and simply just want the attention that they're being given online by other people. Speaking for myself, I know I didn't understand the full extent of what I did online when I was a stupid kid. But kids, especially with lack of education, can be pushed to going into more extreme situations if it means that they keep getting the attention that they so desire. And it's not a sin to want people to want you around or to want people to enjoy the work that you create. That's not the problem. With the growing availability for them to be online and post content, it becomes a problem when there are people in the world who will harm these kids and take advantage of their naivete. This is no fault of any child or young artist, of course. Speaking on it, I was one of those kids. I was on DeviantArt when I was a kid, and I had multiple older people prey upon me. And with more access to the internet, with no real reliable way to keep those harmful people out, it can become a serious concern for me. The internet is a great place, or at least it can be, and a lot of young artists can learn a lot from people in the older generations from the tactics that they had used when they went through their own journey. Not everyone is going to be acting with the best intentions, unfortunately, however sad it may be. And parents won't always talk to their children about these things either. Again, I was never informed about these things. I think we as older artists or people who are more mature should have some responsibility to make sure that newer people in communities know what to do if they're faced with these situations. Keeping everybody informed keeps everybody safe, because the more you know, the more you can call out bad behavior when you see it. There will always be people in the world who want to harm others and do whatever they can for their own sick, twisted wants and needs. But if we give the newer generations and artists tools, we will be able to then arm them with what they need to continue their journey safely. So many people, kids who have turned now to adults, I know have been abused. It might sound stupid, but knowing is half the battle. Knowing signs of abuse, knowing when somebody is trying to desensitize you to subjects you normally wouldn't want anywhere near you. Saying no is a complete sentence, and you never have to compromise your own comfort for art or for anyone. Your comfort matters. Your art matters. It's your journey and your expression, not somebody else's. And please, for the love of Lucifer, if you want to try and help younger artists or people who are new to art and animation, do not cultivate an area that is run by some strange adult on the internet that publicizes it's for underage people. It's really fucking weird. Anonymity for kids or minors is one of the best things they can have on the internet. It's why websites have a "Are you 18 plus?" not a "Are you below 18" to access it. We don't want minors to be outing themselves and making themselves targets for predators. And by no means am I saying that kids should lie that they're over 18 either. You simply don't have to disclose your specific age in order to protect yourself. Should you warn people not to send you not safe for work and adult material? Yes. Onto a slightly lighter topic. Many people have this strange idea that skill correlates to a superior person. And unfortunately, that skews how people treat young artists or other young people in communities in general. I've mentioned before how adults deal with this issue, that if they aren't at a certain skill level by their age, they should just give up. Young artists who find themselves talented or have a knack for art will often be expected to then act as an adult, to be professional. We see the skill level someone is at and so believe they should act and behave a certain way. I'm not excusing the fact that kids can still have bad behaviors. They can make mistakes. They can still break the law. But we should keep in mind that kids are still learning about the world and about things in general. Just because somebody can draw well doesn't mean that their behavior should then automatically be corresponded to their skill. A kid who can draw well is still just a kid, and they will make mistakes. It puts an unhealthy expectation that if you have any shred of skill, that you no longer can act or behave according to how you actually are in terms of age. When in reality, I don't think that should be the case. Yes, adults should have an expectation to act as adults, but if a kid happens to be talented, that doesn't mean they should be treated as superior or as if every aspect of them is an exception. Let kids be kids, let kids be cringy, and let them make mistakes, provided that nobody's, seriously hurt. No one will be perfect as a young person or a young artist, and the best we can do is just help them learn from those mistakes and educate them. To touch on this point quickly, the topic of commissions and pricing your art, a lot of younger artists and younger people will get taken advantage of by saying that their lack of skill should correlate to how much they charge for their art. Even in cases when it's not about art, a lot of younger people tend to get discriminated against because of their age and how people believe them to be ignorant. And I know I had just mentioned about how we should allow kids to make mistakes and that they won't act perfectly, but at the same time we have to realize that kids and young artists or people who are just not of a certain old age are people. We should treat people less as kids and adults on a fine, hard line and more as just people who are always growing and learning. With the obvious exceptions to this rule, which there always are, but I won't get into here. Speaking of cringe, can we stop using it as something that should be shameful? Older artists especially, or those with elitist mentalities, seem to think that their shit doesn't stink. I'm sorry to say that everyone was cringe at one point. We're on YouTube. You're watching me draw and listening to me rambling about whatever I really want, however long this video is, and you're telling me you aren't cringe? Everyone starts somewhere. No one will breathe perfectly from the day they're born, and they'll refine their tastes and likes as time goes on. So many young artists are labeled as cringe and brushed off because they aren't that perfect standard, similar to how adults who start later in life. Young artists who start earlier will be put down for not immediately being perfect because of some outliers that exist within the world. But our world isn't defined by the outliers, and we really shouldn't be defining our art by others. Comparison is a huge issue in general within the art community. Sadly, it's how society at this point in time does work, with the commodification of art and judging it based on a price tag. With how the market is and how much more difficult it's made by AI art programs, it's hard to find your worth in your own art. Young artists worry they aren't immediately perfect, and those starting later in life worried that they're too late to join in. It's a similar problem that connects the generations of working artists, skewed by the fabrication of this divide we believe ourselves to have. Brought on by jealousy, envy, insecurity, fear, they're all emotions we struggle with as artists, but it's something that also can connect us as well. People all the time make this claim of, your art isn't bad, mine is so much worse, when we, in my humble opinion, shouldn't do that. Lifting up one another shouldn't come for the expense of putting down others, even if that other is yourself. It can be harmful and enforce these stereotypical ideas which only continues to plague everyone coming next and those still here. I think we as artists of all ages should learn to lift one another up, give each other tips, share knowledge. Everyone has something that they can teach somebody else, regardless of how long or short they've had a time on this earth, because nobody can know everything. New methods will always be discovered, but going back to the basics of older people will always have their value as well. It takes a combination of both to truly understand and have the best tool to continue forward in your artistic journey. Well, I hope that this video was informative. I'm still not quite sure what I'm trying to get out of this, outside of just talking about these topics more and bringing it more into the light. Regardless, if this video actually reached anyone or not, if you made it this far, thank you. Consider subscribing or liking the video. Maybe shoot me a comment with your own thoughts on this and what I missed. I couldn't really put all my thoughts into this, so I hope you enjoy my attempt to script and record and all of this. You can find me on Twitter as well if you want to keep up with my stuff there. I usually like to post a bunch of my art and what I'm working on. As for my art pieces I have done today, I'm really happy with how these turned out. I've been feeling more comfortable in my own skin as of late and finding my own voice, which is why I wanted to make this video. But until next time, this has been Arson, and don't let anyone douse your blazing passion.